Before we get started, I just want to thank Kai Wood, brand new Patreon supporter. Thank you for joining the Patreon gang, if you will. So you'll be getting a bunch of free content. That's bonus material, so keep an eye out for that. And for those of you who do not know what Patreon is, it's a way for you to help support this show. You can pledge as little as $1 a month. If you don't feel like joining Patreon, another way you can support the podcast is by telling your friends, sharing the episodes on social media, or just continue listening, because I appreciate that as well. Hey guys, welcome to the Everything Went Black podcast. Yeah, it's been a little scarce. The last one I put out was in November, and haven't been keeping with the schedule of trying to do more episodes. The reason for that is my involvement with launching the Metal Matters podcast over at Gimme Radio, and you guys should check it out. I think that you would enjoy it. I know that some of you have, and have expressed to me that you've enjoyed the show. So all of the music, or specifically extreme music, metal related stuff that we've been talking about on EWB, is now going to be sort of transported over to Metal Matters. So all the interviews, people like Aaron Turner and stuff like that is going to be going on over at Metal Matters. And all the topic episodes that Randy and I did are going to be happening there as these full-blown shows. We did tomorrow. Well, as I record this, it's going to be tomorrow, but by the time this comes out, the Neurosis Through Silver and Blood episode will have dropped. We did a Godflesh episode. We did an episode on crossover thrash. You get the idea. It's very similar to the topic episodes that we did earlier, about Amphetamine Reptile and the Rollins Band and that kind of stuff. So Everything Went Black right now is going to be more of non-musical related stuff. So I'm still open to comments and ideas. If you guys have any suggestions, I have a bunch of ideas, bunch of different directions I'd like to go in with this. But still, you guys, I'd like to open up the door for you guys to tell me what you want, and sort of go from there. So this is the 2018 wrap-up episode. And I got to say, 2018, it wasn't the best year, but it wasn't the worst year. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, I'd give 2018 a 3, for me at least. It was rough. It was rough going. 2017 was another rough year, but in a different way, and we'll get to that. Financially, emotionally, and in some ways even creatively, 2018 was a rough time. The creative stuff I kind of turned around as the year went by, but going into 2018, I was drained and pretty much at a very low state. The year prior, 2017, did a lot of stuff with the band, was on the road a lot, did a bunch of touring, played Ozfest, all that good stuff. We had The Grand Annihilation came out, which was a mixed bag for me, actually. But the year was filled with chaos. Lineup changes, members, all this drama, all this intensity and chaos surrounded the release and recording of The Grand Annihilation. And I kind of feel like the record suffered from some of that, in my opinion. I think that moving forward, it's probably going to go down as one of the more disappointing releases in my life. I know it's, a terrible thing to say about stuff that you've done, but I really do believe that The Grand Annihilation is going to go down as probably the weakest Tombs record. And it's not just for personal reasons I say that. I mean, at this stage of the game, a lot of water has passed under the bridges, but we recorded the album in January last year, and going into that recording session, pretty much the entire band expressed their interest in no longer continuing. And at this stage of the game, we had just signed with Metal Blade. This was our debut record on that label. You know, the whole year was planned out as far as touring and being active to support the record, and was kind of left holding the bag as we neared January, which was the start of our recording. Some people exited better than others, and I'm not going to name names, but some people really left the band like bitches, in my opinion. And I'm going to use that term, and I feel comfortable using it. Some people were cool. And, in general, I believe that if you don't want to do something, you shouldn't do it. I don't want to force anyone to do anything. I don't want to, have these prescripted, laborers being in the band. But at least be honest with yourself about what you want and what you don't want. Because people are going to move on, and at this stage of the game, I've gone too far to turn back. It's like if you're swimming across a lake, once you hit that midway point, you might as well just keep going till you get to the other side, because it's too far to turn back and you'll end up drowning. So that's kind of where I'm at with my musical career, or, life pursuits as being a musician, creative person. It's too late. I've gone too far in this direction. Can't turn back. Don't want to turn back anyway. So I might as well just ride this thing until it breaks apart on the rocks. So anyway, 2018. It would have been easy to wallow in all the self-loathing and feel sorry for yourself, or feel sorry for myself. But in the immortal words of Jocko Willink, good. If you're not familiar with Jocko, please look him up. The dude is a real inspiration. I mean, he's got a podcast. I've read one of his books, and I've started reading his second book, or I don't know chronologically when it came out, but for me, it's his second book. And it's called Extreme Ownership. And it's a really intense read. And it's if you're trying to get things done in life and you're trying to be motivated, I definitely recommend checking out his work. And very inspirational guy. Follow him on Instagram too. You'll see that the dude gets up at 4 a.m. every day and gets a pretty heavy duty workout in just to start his day off. And there's just something cool working out in darkness like that when everyone else is mostly sleeping. I kind of like that. So anyway, life oftentimes is hard. And he offers a lot of advice on how to change your thinking around, and how to get through all this stuff and attain your goals. And it's just a good sort of brain exercise. I guess you can take a situation and look at it from the positive and negative side of things. I mean, there's any situation, I guess, has two aspects to it. There's a dude at my gym. His name is Pete, and he's a legit martial artist. He's got years of competitive striking experience. He was an instructor at another gym, and he's best bros with Mohammed Lemjardine, the guy who runs our gym. And his trip is that the mind controls everything. If you're injured, you have to believe that you're going to get better, and you'll get better. If you're sick, you have to believe you're going to get better, you'll heal, and all that sort of stuff. Recovery, all that stuff. And he's like one of these guys who's like into that Wim Hof breathing method, where he's like, cold, that's just in your mind. Like you can deal with the cold. You just have to condition your mind and your body to standing outside in 0-degree weather. That may or may not be true. I don't know. I mean, I like being warm, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be going through that anytime soon. But one of the things he told me is that it's not so much as positive mental attitude. It's just not thinking the negative thoughts. And, I kind of took that to heart. And, it's easier said than done, I suppose. Keeping the negative thoughts at bay. And, one of the great examples of that, and this is a very simple example, but it also works, and you can apply this, is like, thinking that I hope I don't get sick versus I'm glad I'm healthy. It's basically saying the same thing, but you're looking at it in two different ways. I hope I don't get sick. There's fear and anxiety associated with that statement. And I'm glad that I'm healthy is celebrating the fact that you're in sound physical condition, and that being sick is just not something that's in your, in the cards for you. So, that's a very simple example, but that basic model, that basic framework is something that I'm trying to apply to all aspects of my life. And, like I said, it would have been easy to flounder beneath the waves, but instead I tried to look at everything as an opportunity and, just kind of keep on trucking, If I fail, I look at the things, I try to identify the things that got in my way of succeeding, and I try to work on those so that the next time an opportunity comes around, I'm able to succeed. Like I said, it's easier said than done, and I wasn't always successful. For example, a few months ago, I interviewed for a job working on the new Ariel Helwani MMA podcast over at ESPN. And for those of you who have been following this show and know me personally, I'm quite fond of mixed martial arts. And, I feel like that when they responded to me and offered to set up an interview and express interest in me working there, I thought, this is great. This is like the perfect opportunity for me to apply my knowledge of MMA and martial arts, combat sports, all that stuff, and couple that with my technical expertise and organization skills and like all this kind of stuff. The interview went well. I spoke to this guy at ESPN, and he seemed pretty positive about the whole thing. I felt like the job was in the bag. I started thinking about, oh man, it's going to be great. Maybe able to buy a new car or that kind of stuff, and upgrade some of the things I've been lacking in my life. But when it turned out, I ended up getting zeroed on this whole thing. Nothing happened. Literally, the opportunity just evaporated into the ether. That was a hard one to deal with. I mean, as I said earlier, I love MMA, combat sports, and what a cool job that would have been. And Ariel Helwani is one of the, even though I don't agree with him all the time, he's definitely a premier journalist in that field, and it just would have been a great thing. ESPN, massive company, massive media company, and that just was like, just disappeared, just evaporated into thin air, and that was a hard one to deal with. And even now, honestly, talking about it, it kind of stings a little bit. But maybe I wasn't ready to do this stuff. Maybe, like I said, I started thinking about how I was going to spend my money as I made this opportunity hopefully materialize. Maybe that was the wrong mental state to be in. Maybe, buying stuff I don't need with money that I haven't made yet is probably a bad way of proceeding through this. So I don't know. It's just a lot to think about, I guess. And somewhere out there is another opportunity, and I just need to find it. I'm just going with that, searching, staying ready, keeping the brain and the body, the mind strong, and hopefully, able to capitalize on the next opportunity. And that's pretty much the story I want to tell about opportunity. One of the big successes of this year has been finally solidifying Tombs as a band. And, some of you guys out there might be like, oh, well, geez, I saw you play at Ozfest. I saw you play at Hellfest. You guys had an album out. You're on tour all the time, doing all these shows. I saw you in Atlanta at that Temple of Satan thing, whatever. But yeah, it's, sort of contingent on that story in 2017 of everyone pretty much bailing. It's been like this journey trying to find the right people to continue the Tombs lineage, for lack of a better term. And over the course of this past year, I feel like I've solidified the lineup into a bunch of like-minded people. People are coming from the same direction. We all get along, and I got a lot of respect for just the technical ability of these guys, and just the mindset of wanting to do stuff. And I think that some previous members may have been blinded by science and possibly had their own agendas, maybe linked up with the agendas of the band, and might have been looking at things as how can I capitalize on this? How can I make this benefit me as an individual as opposed to benefit the collective? And I think that led to a lot of problems in the previous group that I was working with. But everyone that I'm working with now is with the collective in mind. We just want to do cool stuff. We just want to make good music, play gigs, travel, meet people, all that kind of stuff. And that's, in a way, getting back to the basics for me, because I'd become a little bit jaded dealing with people that I thought were very much mercenary in their ideas and their approaches. So, I mean, I feel fortunate about that. And going into 2019, like I said, have some new material written, working hard on that. And at some point over the course of this next year, we'll have some new music out there for you guys to check out, aside from the live setting, that is. And that's kind of, one of the things that I take solace in from 2018. And, I'm just hoping we'll be able to get some tours together, get out there in front of people, and, bring the music to you. So another opportunity for 2018 that was the whole Metal Matters podcast experience. I mean, once again, man, I was in a pretty dark place coming into 2018. No opportunities, really no game plan for 2018. And this idea of doing a podcast for Gimme Radio was discussed early this year, and it's taken this long to actually manifest this thing. And I'm just glad it happened, and I'm glad that I had an opportunity to work with, really cool professional people like the Gimme Radio people. And, it means a lot to me that they came to me as someone that they thought would be a great host and producer for this show, and that they've entrusted me with helping to expand, the brand, the Gimme Radio brand. And it's a lot of fun too, man. And it's a weekly thing, so it's been a grind keeping everything on track. And I feel like there's some good stuff coming down the line with that. And I hope we expand. I hope we do more. I'd like to do bigger, higher profile projects, with Gimme Radio, as through Metal Matters, and even with Everything Went Black. Like I've been talking about this trailer that we've been working on, and that's coming together painfully slow. I mean, we shot all the footage, we did the interview. The editing process is taking a little bit longer than I was hoping, but we're going to unleash that on you guys soon. That's all I can say. And for some of you who are members of the Patreon, clan, I've actually put the audio of the interview up as a bonus. So if you're, down with Patreon and you want to check that out, it's bonus content. So you get to check out the whole 30-minute interview with Vegas that I did last year or earlier this year rather. And it's intense, man. It's a really interesting sort of piece that we did. And for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, this is Vegas Tenold. He's an author, and he wrote a book called Everything You Love Will Burn, and it's about the emerging extreme right white nationalist movement that sort of has been brewing under the surface in this country. And Vegas went into these groups and sort of got to know them from the inside out. And the book is a chronicle of that mindset, why people feel that way, how it's impacting our country, and how our current president has participated in, empowering these people. So yeah, it's a really cool book. It's on Amazon. You can buy it. I highly recommend everyone read it. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, enjoyed it as much as you could because it's pretty heavy subject matter. But anyway, I thought about doing this kind of like rundown of cool stuff for the year, but it's just like I did a top 5 records for Metal Matters. So if you guys want to check that out, that episode is a special that's dropping this week. And there's some good stuff on there. Not all of it's metal. Some of it's like a little bit more like left of center stuff. But another really cool thing, talking about top 5 records, and this is a hint at one of those things, is that I got an opportunity to interview Tristan of Author and Punisher. And that interview is going to appear on Metal Matters. But that's not even the coolest thing. The coolest thing is that I actually know him. And it's crazy because when I met up with him, he knew who I was, and when I saw him, I knew who he was. And we met back in like the late 90s in Gloucester, Massachusetts, when I was working at a recording studio, and Tristan showed up with his band, Falkirk. He was living in Albany, I think, at the time, and I recorded a demo for those guys. It was like a 4-song demo, and it's just crazy that 20 years later, I run into this guy and he's in this successful, really cool band, Author and Punisher, which is 100% different than what he was doing in Falkirk. But yeah, I don't know. It's cool. Nice guy, by the way. And that interview actually is, I'm shamelessly plugging every Metal Matters right now. That interview posts next month. So if you guys want to check that out, I'd appreciate it. As I said, we didn't tour much this year, a couple short runs, but we did play some pretty sick shows. Got to play Hellfest in France, and damn, I still don't know the name of the town that Hellfest actually happens in. And that was like one of those crazy whirlwind weekends where we just like get on a plane, fly, show up in some foreign country. A guy in a van drives us to the festival. We play, we hang out, we leave. Some dude in a van drives us back to the airport, and then we're back home. It's crazy. But it was a lot of fun. I got to see a bunch of really great bands. Caught Maiden again. Saw At the Gates. Saw a tiny bit of Exodus' set. I saw the Polish band Batushka play, and that was insane. Never thought I'd really get a chance to see them. But lo and behold, they ended up playing in Brooklyn like maybe a month after that. I didn't go to that show, but I saw them at Hellfest. And just the whole Hellfest experience was cool. It's like one of the more well-run, well-curated, sort of festivals like this that I've done. And it was a great time. Looking forward to next year. I hope to be out on tour more. I hope to be seeing you guys out there on the highway. And like I said, continuing to write, continuing to do this podcast, continuing to do the Metal Matters podcast, continuing with Necromaniacs, continuing just writing, continuing pushing forward, onward to the end. And I'm just going to ride this thing until the wheels fall off and there's nothing left. So anyway, I hope everyone has a great holiday. And this will probably be the last episode of the year. And I'll check you guys out in January. So be strong and have a safe holiday. And I really appreciate everyone for listening. So until then, farewell.